and they asked them to then take a test of Americanism. So when they took a test of so-called Americanism, it's all kind of staged. It's a test about movies that existed during a time of their life. And so they're American movies. So the better you can answer the American movies, of course, the more you are an American. The least you could answer the American movies, of course, the least you were American. Now they had a control group that did not get the question asked of them. In the group that was a control group, the Asians did not score. They scored half the score of the other people from America on movies. But what do you think happened to the Asians who were asked, do you speak English? When they took the test of movies. They scored a third higher than the Americans scored. And the way that they anticipate that this difference happened is because they first get asked a question about belonging that compels them to have a focus and a very, very diligent way of looking at each one of these answers and struggling to find out the answer. That there's some sense of performance that is connected to a sense that you just got disconnected. That if you get rejected, you'll fight real hard against the stereotype to ensure that you belong and to prove to everybody else you belong. When the rejection doesn't occur of belonging, it's a sense of course I belong. Now this says two or three things. It says, first of all, people who sense they belong have a sense of comfort because they believe they belong. So they're relaxed about belonging. You can't question me whether I'm an American, of course I am. But if there's the people who have a clause about where they belong and you do question it, that their performance rate will change because they now have to prove to you something. So can you imagine in the middle of a conflict how the sense of belonging might play a role? Of when you stop and you say and you engage me, that you might be telling me that I'm a deviant, you may be a sense of rejection, and now I'm overcompensating to prove to you who I am. And in turn, you in a sense of belonging are saying back to me that I really am the authority that determines who and when people do belong. And I push back and let you know that I am in authority, and you can't define for me that you belong, I define for you who belong. And you can be on a road to crash and not even realizing that both of you are struggling for a sense of belonging. Now let me ask the question, because I want to rob you more time, because I certainly could spend time talking about a few studies that are out there. But how many people, you were listening to somebody give an explanation about how they believe others perceive them, and you're going, really? Did anybody feel that way when somebody was talking at your table, like, really? I don't even see you that way. But they see themselves that way in the looking glass of other people's eyes along the way. How is it that you perceive yourself? Somebody tell me, how do you perceive yourself and think that others perceive you a different way? What do you perceive about yourself? But you know when you look into other people's eyes, that's not the first thing they see about you. They see something else. Because the Ferguson situation is begging for reconcilers. It's begging for them. It's asking, is there somebody who can be objective enough? Is there somebody who can discover the facts enough? Is there somebody who will study past their own biases and discover truth and just tell truth where they find it? Or will everybody simply be gathered together in their own group? 80% of African Americans in the United States, when they did a survey, identified that this was a racial conflict. Whereas on the other side, only, I believe the number's 27% of people of European history that thought that race had anything to do with it. How do you have a gap that large? The reality is we don't have enough information, do we? But we're making decisions early. But if you were going to be a minister of reconciliation, and my wife and I, remember she put me out, and my wife and I need to get reconciled, are you going to just sit there and listen to me and what I have to say? And take this into caution. If you're a female and you're counseling us, are you just going to listen to my wife's story? Or are you going to intentionally make sure that you heard me so that you work against your bias. So the argument becomes, when we become ministers of reconciliation, that we intentionally hear what I'm going to call the minority view, meaning the view that is opposite from you, because your view is your majority view. If you don't hear the minority view, hear what's going on, hear the history, hear what's going on in Ferguson with the police department, with the chief of police, what the history was that led up to this event that actually allows them to bring in military-like equipment when the riots break out, then you might miss the whole thing. If on the other side, you don't realize that he is in a challenged position with somebody that he has, through his mind of criminality, determined because of the aggression that he believes he's receiving from this person. Somebody he needs to contain and control. And he's attempting to do it. And those things are at play and going on in the process. When we become ministers of reconciliation, then it becomes a great call for us to actually know the other position extremely well, so that we rule out our biases and actually can bring together reconciliation. Because if I think that you only heard my wife, which I think that some of you all would only listen to my wife, I think that the whole counseling session is defeated because I can't hear you anymore. You don't like men. You don't like men's viewpoints. And I may even exaggerate your femininity or your presence of being a female. Now, your whole identity becomes a female. You're no longer a counselor, a mother, a wife of a husband. You're just this woman who has a woman view. And what might have happened in the Ferguson situation, as it happened with the Zimmerman situation, something's already at play when the young man walks up. If you listen to the radio, what's going on with Zimmerman, something's already at play. That now they meet on what's going on.